why is everyone acting like UFC White House is the worst card ever? We knew what we were getting. We got most of the names that we wanted. Ilya's on it. Pereira's on it. Sean O'Malley's on it. We got some pretty solid names. Everyone knew Michael Chandler and Bo Nickel would be on it. Not the best matchups for either of those guys, but it's still a solid card. We knew that John Jones wouldn't be on it. He did the UFC no favors by retiring and refusing to fight Aspinall. We knew that the UFC weren't going to do him any favors and that they weren't going to put him on this card. We knew the UFC said that they can't trust McGregor because he's inconsistent. He hasn't fought in years. He pulled out. So we all were never really expecting either of these big names to be on this card. We have one of the biggest names in the sport, and I'll admit I'm very disappointed, especially with the recent news that came out that it was supposed to be Islam versus Ilya, and that Islam had to pull out due to injury. There's some speculation there. Regardless of if it's true or not, we were kind of expecting Ilya versus Justin anyways. I like that fight. It's the fight that should be made first. Ilya should defend his belt, especially against the interim champ. We don't want to see another vacated title. Who would Justin Gaethje fight next? This sets up the Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan fight. I think that this is actually good matchmaking by the UFC. I think if Ilya wins, beats Justin, beats the interim champion, he should be able to move up and fight against Islam. I think that right now it would have been too early for that fight. I'm not mad at the main event. The co-main event, I think, is actually the best fight on the card. I'm very excited for it. Alex Pereira is moving up. He's fighting Ciryl Gane for the interim belt. People have been asking for Pereira at heavyweight for 2 or 3 years now, and finally they got it, and now they're complaining about it. I don't understand what's going on there. Pereira is fighting, he's not even fighting Aspinall, he's fighting Ciryl Gane, so it will be a better fight. They're both strikers. I think that there will be less than 3 takedowns attempts in this entire fight. I don't think that it will go the full distance because they're both 6'4" and they pack a punch. I think it's a great fight. I think the main event and co-main event are about as good as we could have got. Pereira versus John Jones was just kind of unrealistic. Islam versus Ilya was kind of unrealistic. Expecting McGregor to come back was extremely unrealistic. In the featured fight, we've got Sean O'Malley, probably one of the biggest American stars right now, maybe the biggest, because John Jones is technically retired. I don't love the matchup with Ayman Zahabi. I would have rather had him fight Corey Sandhagen, but obviously the UFC wants, kind of a layup fight for Sean O'Malley. And think about it, if Corey Sandhagen had been one of the main fighters on this card, then an American has to lose. Sean O'Malley or Corey Sandhagen has to lose, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of this card. Mauricio Rufy versus Michael Chandler is a great fight. I think that the UFC kind of did Michael Chandler dirty here, giving him a weird style fighter with a lot of power, very explosive. Michael Chandler could do what BSD did and, snag some takedowns. Rufy does not have the best grappling, as we've seen. I do think that Rufy will get it done and knock him out, but I'm not counting Michael Chandler out, especially at the odds that he's at. We also have Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins on this fight. Bo Nickel is supposed to run through him. Hopefully he does, an American win. I'd take it. And then opening the card, it's a straight banger. Diego Lopez and Steven Garcia. That's going to be a great fight. Lopez has a lot of power. Steve Garcia has high output. So in a 3-round fight, that will be incredible. I am a little disappointed that there are only 6 fights on the card. I wish there had been more, but I understand. It's going to be like the Sphere. The Sphere had less fights, but it was more about like the production and, the showmanship of the UFC. They took a lot of time away from the fights to focus on the history of the UFC and to show, make it a big spectacle and everything. I think they'll do that at the White House as well. I'm going to give my reactions to the UFC 326 fights as well. I was impressed with Rodolfo Bellato to kick off the card. He looked very good against Luke Fernandez with an early TKO. I kind of hate to say it, but it is tough to see Dana White Contender Series fighters do so well on Contender Series and then go into the UFC and not do very well, but we've started to see more and more of it recently. Luke Fernandez looked great in Contender Series, got that knockout very early, like 15 seconds, and then just, didn't show it against Bellato, but it happens. Next fight, we had Dr. Nurgaze versus Rafael Tobias, and Dr. Nurgaze won. I think it was a unanimous decision. It was a decent fight, kind of boring. Next up, Sumaderji versus Jesus Aguilar. Sumaderji, again, won a decision. I didn't think that there was much contradiction there. I think that was pretty cut and dry. Uh, Alberto Montez choked Ricky Turcios out cold. That was a great fight. Montez looked phenomenal. Turcios did not tap. Kind of surprised. Cody Durden lost to NT. I was a little disappointed. I had Cody Durden as one of my underdog picks. Didn't happen. He looked pretty decent in the fight, but lost. It's whatever. Dante Johnson beat Cody Brundage. That was also not a great fight. Then Cody Garbrandt got hit in the nuts about 10 times against Zhao Long. That was a decent fight. I picked Cody Garbrandt as an underdog, so he made me some money there. Hopefully, it made you guys some money too if you tailed my picks. Zhao Long, I don't understand how you can knee somebody or kick somebody in the nuts that many times. I thought that they were going to absolutely throw down when Cody came out and did this and then sprinted out at Zhao Long. It didn't really go down like that. It was kind of a boring fight outside of the vomit and the nut kicks. Going into the main card, I'm not only going to be giving my reactions to these fights, but I'm also going to be matchmaking both the winners and the losers of these fights. The Gregory Rodriguez fight was phenomenal. It's played out exactly how everyone wanted it to play out. It was a little boring the first minute of the fight because they were both getting their reads, but then just bang like that, and quick explosion, just a straight shot, boom, knockout. That's kind of what I was anticipating. I wasn't sure which side it would come from. Gregory Rodriguez was my pick, though, so I'm glad it was him. Had a little money on him as well. Betting the under was almost free money in this fight. We kind of knew that a knockout was going to happen, just like their first fight. However, the first time it was Bruno Ferreira that got the knockout. And I hate to say it, but it's like this time I think that Gregory Rodriguez is the better fighter. So this time I think that he made the right read. Last time I think that Rodriguez just got caught. So for the winner of this fight, Gregory Rodriguez, I want him to fight the winner of Joe Pyfer and Israel Adesanya. They're almost similar in the rankings. You know, if Pyfer beats Izzy, he'll be sitting at about the 8 or 9 spot. He'll be top 10. Rodriguez is sitting, I think, 11 or 12th right now in the middleweight rankings. It would be a great fight, especially if it was Pyfer. They both have that same power. You know, they hit hard. They don't want it to go 5 rounds. And then if Izzy wins, this would be a great test for Gregory Rodriguez. It wouldn't be quite the same as a Jared Cannonier fight, but it'd be like, can Rodriguez maintain his pace for 5 rounds? Can he deal with a counter striker that's not going to fight, you know, with emotion, who's going to fight very smart and calm and composed? I think that would be a great fight. For Bruno Ferreira, I've seen a lot of people say that they want him to fight Ikram Aliskerov. I don't like that fight. Bruno Ferreira just got knocked out in the first round, almost first minute of the first round, and Ikram Aliskerov is on a 2-fight win streak. I would like to see Bruno Ferreira fight a different guy that is coming off of a loss as well. I would say Roman Kopylov. However, Roman Kopylov is fighting Marco Tulio. So I'm going to say give him the winner of Marco Tulio and Roman Kopylov. I think that that's about perfect. I think Roman Kopylov would have been perfect in a couple months. They would have both been coming off losses against the same guy. Bruno Ferreira would have been in a worse style because Kopylov lost a decision. But I think that the winner of Marco Tulio and Roman Kopylov would be a perfect matchup for Bruno Ferreira. It'd be a pretty good banger. It'd be similar to if Gregory Rodriguez fought Israel Adesanya. Kopylov is kind of a counter striker. Ferreira has a lot of power. So I think that'd be a good fight, especially on like a Apex card. You know, just get some excitement. Next up, we have Drew Dober and Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson was winning the fight, and then Drew Dober came out and knocked him out. You know, it's the curse. Michael Johnson's got that curse that Drew Dober just beats all the black guys, I guess. I don't know. He hasn't lost one yet. I kind of want to test it by giving him like John Jones or someone like that. But for my Drew Dober matchup, I think that he should fight Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper's coming off of a bad loss against Alexander Hernandez. I think that Dober gives him a lot of experience. It would be a good fight. Hooper would probably be a pretty big favorite, but you can't count Dober out of any of these fights. For Michael Johnson, I would give him Matt Frivola. They were supposed to fight. They were scheduled to fight in 2024. It got canceled. I think now's a great time to do it. They're both coming off of losses. They're both a little bit on the older side. They're not really working towards a ranking, but it would be a good fight. It'd be a striking battle. Who wouldn't want to watch that? So for Drew Dober, I'd give him Chase Hooper, and for Michael Johnson, I would match him up with Matt Frivola. In the featured fight, we had Raul Rosas Jr. absolutely ragdoll Rob Font. Rob Font looked good for the first minute or two of the fight, and then Rosas just, pretty much did the same thing that Oliveira did later. Got those body locks, got those takedowns, and then just controlled on the ground. I wouldn't say it was a boring fight. It was kind of what we were expecting. That's what Raul Rosas wants to do. I was not impressed at all with Rosas's striking, but his grappling did look incredible. I can't fault him for that. For the winner of this fight, Raul Rosas Jr., I would match him up with Davison Figueiredo or Marcus McGee. Him and Marcus McGee are pretty similar in the rankings. McGee's coming off a loss, but his loss was to Petr Yan. Can't really fault him for that. That's the UFC champion right now. Rosas and McGee would be a good match. McGee would want to strike, obviously, with Rosas. Rosas would want to take McGee down. So we'd see, can Rosas hang with a good striker, a solid striker on the feet? McGee, obviously, he has good striking. He hung with Petr Yan. He lost a pretty clear decision to Yan, but he never really looked out of place or like Yan was dragging him into deep waters like people were kind of anticipating. And then for McGee, we would see, can he fend off the takedowns of Rosas? It would be a great test for either fighter. For the Rosas-Figueiredo fight, it'd be pretty much the same thing. It would be Figgy can take it to the ground. Obviously, he's got good jiu-jitsu, but it would be more the experience that Rosas would gain from this fight. I think that either of those would be great matchups. I would love for the UFC to make something like that happen. For the loser, Rob Font, I want to pair him up with Cody Garbrandt. They both fought on the same card, so the timeline matches up. Rob Font would be coming off a loss. Cody Garbrandt would be coming off a win. It'd be a great matchup. They both want to strike. They're both a little bit on the older side, not really working towards rankings anymore. So I think it would just be, for the viewer, UFC fans would love it. It's an ex-champion versus a guy that's been ranked for 20 years. He's been ranked forever, I swear. Next up in the co-main event, we had Caio Borralho versus Reinier de Ridder. Caio won a pretty good decision. He also got hit in the nuts and had I'll say interesting response to that. It was pretty funny. I keep seeing memes about it on Instagram and everything. I'm sure you guys have too. It was a clear-cut decision. Caio kind of looked like just a level above Reinier de Ridder. And Reinier de Ridder, it appears, will now be moving up to light heavyweight. So for this matchup, I would give Caio Borralho, I'd give him Fluffy Hernandez. Fluffy's coming off a loss. Caio just had a loss to Nasruddin Imavov. Fluffy, I think, is actually below Caio right now in the rankings, but I would not be surprised if he was a favorite if they were to fight. I think it's a great matchup. There would be some good grappling exchanges. We'd see how Fluffy's cardio fares against Caio, because Caio has had some cardio problems in the past. And then for Reinier de Ridder, I would give him Jamal Hill. Move up to light heavyweight. Jamal Hill's on a losing streak. Reinier de Ridder's now on a losing streak, but it'd be a good fight. Can Reinier, get the fight to the ground like he wants to against a guy like Jamal Hill in a higher weight class? Can Jamal Hill keep it on the feet like he'd probably want it to be and get through Reinier de Ridder's, no sus length and his jabs and everything? I think that'd be a pretty solid fight. In the main event, Charles Oliveira looked phenomenal. You can hate on him all you want. That was not his fault. Max Holloway has to take risks and get up to the feet. There were a few times, how can you fault a guy for not wanting to strike with one of the best strikers in the UFC? Oliveira just looked dominant over Holloway. Holloway was so focused on not losing by finish that he was content just sitting on his back like this so that, Oliveira couldn't get a rear naked choke on him. Holloway has to take some more risks, especially in rounds, 3, 4, and 5, when it's starting to look like it's starting to become pretty clear that this is his game plan. He just wants to keep me on the ground, hold me down. Oliveira had 21 minutes of control time. That's ridiculous. Holloway has to try harder to get up. For Oliveira, I think the fight to make is very obvious. Give him a 5-round fight versus Arman Tsarukyan. This can be a big main event for a fight night, or it can be a co-main event of any card, really. The first fight was pretty exciting. Oliveira had Arman in trouble a couple times. Arman won by decision. I kind of agree with it, even though Oliveira is my favorite fighter. Oliveira had Arman in more trouble, though, in his 2 submission attempts than Arman had Oliveira in throughout the entirety of the fight. Run it back, it'd be a great fight. Winner gets the winner of Ilya and Justin Gaethje at the White House card. Max Holloway, I would say give him if Mauricio Rufy beats Michael Chandler, I would say give him Mauricio Rufy. Mauricio Rufy's exciting. We know he's going to want to keep it on the feet. It would be a great, striking match between one of the best boxers in the UFC and then like kind of weird dynamic striker in Mauricio Rufy. Or I would also give Max Holloway the Dan Hooker fight. I know it doesn't really match up as well, but they're both coming off losses. It would be striker's delight. Who wouldn't want to see that? Hooker would, come in with the trash talk. He'd be thrown down. Hooker had a great fight with Dustin Poirier, who's one of the only other guys that really wants to just stand and strike with him. So I'd love to see Max Holloway versus Dan Hooker, see how that goes. Those are my matchups and reactions to UFC 326 and the announcement of the White House card. Let me know who you guys would like to see headline the White House card down below.